It's been an absolute season of missile tests in India, but this morning, early this morning in the Pokhran desert, the Indian forces tested a missile that has taken a long time coming, that they've been anticipating and waiting for with bated breath. And the test you're about to see for the first time is a test that paves the way for one of India's most important weapons, the Nag tank killer missile. Take a look.
An incredible piece of footage from the hallowed turf of Pokhran. What you're looking at is the Nag, India's very own anti-tank guided missile, blasting out from its carrier, soaring high into the sky and screaming down to destroy a target tank. The Nag has taken a long time to prove itself. But with this test, the missile has completed its final trial with the Indian Army and is now declared fit for induction and operational service. The final trial by fire you see here was no ordinary one. While it was fired at a small range, the missile can destroy targets out to 7 kilometers. The missile was integrated with the actual warhead and a tank target was kept at a designated range. Fired at sunrise, the missile accurately locked and destroyed the target tank. The Nag missile has fire and forget and top attack capabilities, defeating all modern battle tanks equipped with composite and reactive armour. With this final user trial, Nag will enter into production phase. The missile will be produced by Defence PSU Bharat Dynamics Limited or the BDL, whereas Ordnance Factory Medak will produce the Nag missile carrier you see firing the weapon. The Nag's carrier, the BMP-2, is already deployed in large numbers in Ladakh and at high altitudes, which means the Nag will, in the coming months, see possible deployment in areas where India and China have deployed large numbers of armoured vehicles during the current standoff. Nag carriers deployed in strength could be formidable tank killers in such a scenario. The final trials will hopefully bring to a close the long, difficult development and testing journey of one of India's most awaited missiles. Bureau Report, India Today.
Absolutely stunning images of that test that have been going viral all morning on social media especially, and we're bringing to you the full extent of that test, which has been captured on video, like you can see in these unforgettable pictures. I want to bring in India Today's Gaurav, Sawant and Abhishek Bhalla in on this. Abhishek, stunning test. The Nag missile is an anti-tank missile. What are your sources telling you? This was a successful test that actually clears the way for this weapon to enter service now.
That's right, Shiv. It's been a long wait, but the induction of the Nag missile will take place very soon, and the Indian Army will be using this. And, the last month and a half has been really a season of missile testing with the DRDO and the three forces carrying out a series of back-to-back tests. And this comes amid a time when there are tensions at the borders, even though officials have said that it was because of the COVID lockdown that many of these tests were postponed. They were supposed to take place a little earlier, but definitely one cannot discount the fact that the Army, Air Force and even the Navy have used their platforms to test various missiles over the last month and a half.
Gaurav, you and Abhishek are just back from Ladakh, where we've seen tanks deployed in very large numbers. And while India has so far been forced to import a lot of anti-tank missiles, it has been because the Nag was not ready yet. But with this test, it looks like all that has changed. This is an Indian anti-tank missile that has proven itself and ready for service at a very important time for the country.
The timing is extremely crucial, as you very rightly pointed out, Shiv. This integrated missile development program with the Agni, Prithvi, Akash, Nag and Trishul started way back in 1983. And it's only now in 2020 that Nag is finally cleared for use by the army, and the army desperately needed tank killers. While we did import tank killers missiles from overseas, Nag will make a crucial difference because you manufacture it indigenously, you get the numbers that you require, and you are not held to ransom by any country at any point of time. And this is exactly what India has been looking to do. The fact that you have Nag tank killers in your possession would mean that the Chinese or any adversary would think twice. So far, the Chinese were boasting about their light tanks.
Absolutely.
Now their light tanks would technically be sitting duck for these Nag missiles.
Gaurav and Abhishek, thank you very much for joining us. Exciting times for India's missile programs. So many tests have been done, and there are so many tests up ahead as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on that. Well, India, like Gaurav said, it's been absolutely non-stop for India's missile scientists. India recently successfully flight tested its indigenously crafted smart torpedo system. So while the army needs to kill tanks, the Navy needs to kill submarines. And here's a really revolutionary weapon system that has just been tested. It's a hybrid of a missile carrying a torpedo inside it. Take a look.
An enemy submarine in the Bay of Bengal, prowling, looking to create silent trouble for Indian forces, to blockade Indian vessels, hinder movement, and maybe even sink Indian warships. But what the submarine doesn't know is that a network of Indian sensors has already picked it up. And from a very safe distance of over 600 kilometers, its destruction has begun. This missile blasts into the air either from an Indian ship or even from a shore-based launcher like this one. The missile roars over the ocean out to where the submarine lurks at depths. Once near the site of the threat, the missile pops open, releasing a torpedo, which parachutes into the water. Once in the water, the torpedo begins a search pattern, locks onto the submarine, homes in and destroys it. The system that brought the torpedo this huge distance, way beyond a normal torpedo's range, is called SMART, short for Supersonic Missile Assisted Release of Lightweight Anti-Submarine Torpedo System. Detecting a submarine is of course easier said than done, and is one of the most difficult and complex elements of naval warfare. And what this new Indian weapon under test has done is give India the beginnings of such a capability.
You need to increase the ranges of the torpedoes. Many mechanisms are available. This is one of the mechanisms wherein supersonic missile assisted release of torpedo, that's the SMART, has been attempted. So this will definitely help Indian Navy in engaging far off distance objects. That's the primary motive of this particular test.
The system has had a textbook success and will soon see many more launches until it is ready for service. Bureau Report, India Today.
And like I said, this missile Mausam, this season of missile tests is non-stop. You saw one of the Nag that happened early this morning, but it is only the latest in what has been a flurry of missile tests. A successful flurry, let me add, by the DRDO. It's confident now of also developing a complete hypersonic cruise missile system. And that is this test that you're about to see that began this season of missile tests last month. Take a look.
4, 3, 2, 1, now.
India's missile season began with this test. On the face of it, it looks like just any other missile test, right? Well, what you don't see is what's inside this missile carrier. And that's where the real juice is. It's this object, which looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. This is the hypersonic technology demonstrator vehicle. Blasted to an altitude of 30 km by the rocket-powered missile. This object then separated from the missile at a very high velocity. Hypersonic combustion was then triggered and sustained the vehicle on a designated flight path at a velocity of 6 times the speed of sound, nearly 2 kilometers per second for more than 20 seconds. The scramjet engine performed in a textbook manner, to the delight of scientists who were tracking it from the ground. India is a new entrant to the small hypersonic club, which so far has Russia, China and the US as members. But why hypersonic weapons, you may wonder. The capability of modern anti-missile systems to shoot down even high-speed missiles has meant that evading such defenses needs even more speed. That's why hypersonic velocities that blaze through defended airspace without risk of being shot down. The hypersonic technology being tested here will find use in future Indian weapons, including a hypersonic version of the currently hypersonic BrahMos.
DRDO has been developing many missile systems, and DRDO has capability to develop varieties of missile systems. I can confidently say that the country has all the capabilities and completely self-reliant in the area of missile systems. So whatever the missile system which armed forces look for, DRDO has the capability.
Unlike the hypersonic test, which was announced with some justifiable fanfare by the government, there was another test that was conducted in absolute silence. No publicity whatsoever. Even these images you see aren't of the actual test, but an earlier launch. This is the Shaurya missile, tested in early October. It is one of India's most formidable upcoming weapons. Sporting a range of just under 2,000 kilometers, this surface-to-surface missile is a hybrid missile that uses ballistic launch, a cruise missile like mid-phase, and a precision-guided end phase that makes it hugely flexible for Indian strategic planners. The Shaurya is the land-launched version of the operational K-15 missile, already activated on India's INS Arihant nuclear submarine. The Shaurya will undergo a few more tests before being inducted into the eager Strategic Forces Command by the end of next year. Two high-speed, high-capability weapons. One for the future, one about to be ready for service. The headlining acts of a furious season of missiles. Bureau Report, India Today.
So you've got an anti-tank missile, you've got an anti-submarine missile, you've got a surface-to-surface missile, but there was also an air-to-surface, a strike weapon to target specifically enemy radars that was very quietly tested in the weeks gone by. And I want to refresh your memory because this is a very, very important weapon, ladies and gentlemen, especially in the current scenario. China has deployed a large number of communication networks and radars in the Ladakh area, and this is a weapon that can take those out very easily. Take a look.
It's been fired before, But this was the first time it was publicized. This is the Rudra, India's brand new anti-radiation missile. Seen here launched from a Sukhoi MKI fighter high up over the Bay of Bengal. But what does an anti-radiation missile do? An anti-radiation missile is a weapon designed to detect and home in on an enemy radio emission source, mainly radars that make up the heart of enemy air defenses. Take, for instance, Chinese radars and communication centers in the depth areas across the line of actual control from eastern Ladakh, up to 200 kilometers inside. Indian jets sporting such a missile would be capable of destroying those radar sites with such a weapon. The radar waves would literally draw the missile into the target. The missile's seeker can detect, classify and engage targets over a wide band of frequencies. The missile is a potent weapon for Indian Air Force pilots in the difficult suppression of enemy air defenses from large standoff ranges. With this, the country has established indigenous capability to develop long-range air-launched anti-radiation missiles for neutralizing enemy radars, communication sites, and other radio frequency emitting targets.
We need to do some more tests on that, and then once that is done, it will be inducted into the Indian Air Force, maybe in the next about 1 year or so.
The Rudram will see more tests before it is operationally cleared for services. Bureau Report, India Today.
And while you saw the very important Nag anti-tank missile happen early this morning in Pokhran, what you may not know is that a few days ago, the Indian Armed Forces tested for the first time an anti-tank missile that was actually fired out of the main gun of a tank itself. It's called the laser-guided anti-tank guided missile. It was fired out from an Arjun tank's cannon. Here's how it went.
Blasting out from a tank's gun barrel. Except that isn't a tank shell, but the first test firing of India's laser-guided anti-tank guided missile.
3, 2, 1, now!
Seen here being fired from the main gun of an Arjun battle tank in the Ahmednagar firing ranges. The missile is an advanced derivative of the Nag anti-tank missile that has been in development for years. The Indian Army had originally considered the Israeli Lahat tank-fired missile. But performance of the weapon fell short of expectations, prompting the Defence Ministry to sanction a fully Indian program. And that's why this first test of the Samho laser-guided anti-tank guided missile is so significant. The last time India had a tank war was 1971. But that does not mean tanks are no longer part of frontline forces. In fact, apart from being deployed in large numbers in the desert sectors of Rajasthan and plains of Punjab, tanks are also deployed in large numbers in Ladakh amidst the current standoff with China. Anti-tank weaponry is therefore still very much part of modern battlefield. Bureau Report, India Today.
And here's the thing, even though there has been this fast flurry of missile tests, that season is far from over. There are many more missiles that are going to be tested in the next few weeks. We hear that some of these missiles that are going to be tested over the next few days, weeks, months, in fact, are going to be the standoff anti-tank missile, or the SANT, which is going to be tested. It was already tested recently. It's going to be tested again. Let's move on to the next one. Then we've got the Astra air-to-air beyond visual range air-to-air missile that's going to be tested. Then you also have a test of the Agni series of missiles. It could be the 3 or the 4 that's likely to be tested, is what we hear. And the BrahMos extended range version is going to be tested at sea in the next few months, and also finally an improved version of the in-service Akash surface-to-air missile. Well, recently the BrahMos, which is India's fastest missile and one of the fastest missiles in the world, was tested at extended range. It usually has a range of about 300 kilometers. It was extended to more than 400 and can go up to 900 kilometers. Here are the first visuals from that test.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. 1.
The unmistakable roar of the BrahMos. Screaming into the air, this supersonic cruise missile is the fastest weapon in India, and one of the fastest in the world. But this unpublicized test from September 30th, a video of which you're seeing for the first time here on India Today, wasn't just another test of the BrahMos missile. You cannot tell from these dramatic pictures, but the weapon being tested here is a beefed-up BrahMos. While the BrahMos has for long been restricted to a 290-kilometer range, this test last week saw the BrahMos being tested at ranges well in excess of 400 kilometers. Also invisible to the eye are a slew of improvements that make this weapon significantly more stealthy. With this range extension, several more targets come within range of the BrahMos missile, including several air bases, military establishments and Chinese army depots in Tibet. The speed and stealth of the BrahMos also ensures very little reaction time to its targets. The BrahMos, in simple terms, is now a threat to many more Chinese targets than earlier. BrahMos missile regiments are already deployed in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh at this time. With the range extension updates to the missile, they get longer legs. Theoretically, every BrahMos in service can now sport an extended range, including the BrahMos on Indian Navy warships. The air-launched BrahMos from the Indian Air Force's Sukhoi 30 MKF fighters, and most immediately, the Army's large number of BrahMos regiments. The hugely significant extended range BrahMos has been tested up to 400 kilometers, but will ultimately be pushed to over 800 kilometers, making it the most fearsome strike weapon in the Indian arsenal. You can be sure that China has taken note. With Shivarur in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.